In a small town by the sea, Bashing thought her life was perfect. She had a good job at the Animal Protection Office and was about to marry her high school boyfriend, Janu. They had been together for years, and the wedding was only 2 months away. But one day, out of nowhere, Janu told her he wanted to break up. Bashing was shocked. She asked him why, but he only said that he didn't love her anymore. His cold words hurt her deeply, and she didn't know what to do. Feeling lost, she went to the beach, where she always went when she needed to think. She cried and whispered, "Why did I ever fall in love with you?" As she sat there, an old man suddenly appeared. He handed her a fishing rod and an umbrella. Bashing looked at him, confused. "What am I supposed to do with these?" she asked. "You'll understand soon enough," he said mysteriously, and then he walked away. When Bashing went home, she noticed something strange. Her old phone from high school, which she thought she had lost, was lying on her table. She picked it up and felt memories rushing back. Maybe Janu was just stressed about the wedding, she thought. She sent him a message asking him to meet her at their old high school football field, just like they had promised each other long ago. The next morning, Bashing put on her old school uniform and stood in the rain, waiting. Janu didn't reply, but she stayed anyway. Soon, a young man walked up to her with a kind smile and covered her with an umbrella. He introduced himself as Wanan. Bashing was surprised, but before she could ask him anything, she saw Jianu arriving in a school uniform, just like she had asked. Her heart filled with hope, but it quickly broke again when Jianu scolded her for following him and walked away. She was left standing there, feeling even more heartbroken than before. Back at home, Bashing felt exhausted. Later, a friend called to chat about the wedding, but Bashing didn't mention the breakup. Her friend talked about a high school reunion and sent her an old group photo. When Bashing looked at it, she froze. Wanan, the young man who had given her the umbrella, was in the photo. How could he still look the same after all these years? Confused, she turned on the TV and saw a program about time travel. Just then, the doorbell rang. She opened it to find Jianu, who handed her a box of her things and told her to stop messaging him. "How can you forget 10 years so easily?" she asked, feeling hurt. Jianu replied, "You were always the one chasing me. I never got to figure out what I wanted." When Bashing mentioned their meeting that morning, Jianu looked confused. He said he had been at work all day. Bashing's mind started racing. Had she really traveled back in time? She remembered holding her old phone before seeing the younger Janu and Wanan. Desperate to understand, she held the phone and focused. When she looked up, she was back in her high school days, surrounded by her classmates. She realized she might have a chance to change her future. But things weren't so simple. She had arrived on the day of the university entrance exams. She wanted to go home, but her parents made her stay for the test. Sitting in the exam room, with no idea how to answer the questions, she decided to close her eyes and sleep, wondering what would happen next. Back in her present life, Bashing knew she couldn't keep leaving things to chance. She traveled back again, this time memorizing the answers to the test, determined to make things better. Her parents noticed her acting differently. Her mother asked about her wedding dress, but Bashing didn't want to talk about it. Her father mentioned an old news story about a student named Wanan, who had fallen from the bell tower years ago. Distracted, Bashing didn't pay much attention as she focused on her plan. This time, she wrote down the test answers. Her friend Ting Ting noticed her strange behavior and asked about Jianu, but Bashing told her she was done with him. Ting Ting looked shocked. Just moments ago, Bashing had been talking about him. Later, Bashing checked the school rankings and saw Wanan's name at the top. The mystery deepened. Who was he really? And why did he keep appearing whenever she went back in time? Bashing set herself a new goal to surpass Wanan, the top student in her high school class. On the day of the class photo, she told everyone to prepare for a challenging test, warning them it would include tricky questions. But no one took her seriously. When the test arrived, Bashing completed it within minutes, confident because she had memorized all the answers. She left school that day feeling proud, certain she'd improved her future. However, when she returned to the present, nothing had changed. Her phone was filled with missed calls from her boss, followed by a text warning she'd be fired if she didn't show up immediately. Disappointed and frustrated, Bashing rushed to work, realizing her attempt to change her future had failed. Her eyes wandered to a photo of her high school graduation. As she stared, her gaze fell on Wanan, and she remembered her father mentioning that Wanan had fallen from the bell tower. A sudden thought struck her. Maybe her real purpose for going back was to save Wanan. Determined, she decided to try again. Just as she was about to leave, her mother handed her some money, asking her to pick up something from the store. As Bashing stepped outside, Wanan suddenly appeared, grabbed her hand, and started running with her. "What are you doing?" she asked, confused. "There's a gang chasing you," Wanan said, but Bashing suspected he was just making an excuse to spend time with her. Taking the chance, she asked if they could be friends. Back at school, her friend Ting Ting asked her about Jianu, but Bashing told her firmly not to bring him up. She no longer loved him and was done chasing after him. That evening, Ting Ting mentioned they were planning a trip to the amusement park, and Bashing decided to invite Wanan along. At the park, she saw Jianu and decided to have a little fun at his expense. She threw him into the dunk tank, causing him to fall into the water. Furious, Jianu publicly humiliated her, accusing her of doing it because he didn't love her back. Hurt by his harsh words, Bashing walked away, but Wanan followed her, trying to comfort her. He even took her on the Ferris wheel, where she began to see his genuine kindness. Right then, Bashing silently vowed to protect him from his tragic fate. But just as she made her decision, she was abruptly pulled back to the present. Confused, she tried to go back in time again, but the phone wouldn't work. No matter what she did, she was stuck in the present. Worse, after she fell asleep at work, her boss fired her as promised. Bashing returned home in despair, only to get a notification. Jianu was announcing his new relationship. Determined to see who Jianu was now dating, Bashing decided to attend the event. Ting Ting went with her, and on the way, Bashing told her friend she didn't need revenge. She was ready to move on from Jianu. But then, Jianu appeared and asked why they were there. Ting Ting spoke up, saying she wanted to meet his new girlfriend, and Jianu surprised them both by revealing it was Ting Ting herself. Bashing was stunned. Her own friend, who she had trusted for years, was now dating Jianu. Overwhelmed, she couldn't even bring herself to confront Ting Ting. Later, her mother took her out to look at wedding dresses, and Bashing couldn't hold it in any longer. She broke down, screaming at her mother that she and Jianu had broken up long ago. She returned home, feeling like her whole world had crumbled. Later that night, she received a message from Ting Ting, apologizing for hiding the relationship. Ting Ting explained that it was Jianu who wanted to make it public, and she reminded Bashing of how close they had been in high school. Attached to the message was a video. When Bashing played it, she saw Wanan in the background, being pushed around by a red-haired guy. Suddenly, she felt a deep sympathy for Wanan. Clutching her phone, Bashing wished with all her heart to go back in time one more time. Her wish came true, and she found herself back in the past. Without thinking, she ran to Wanan, shouting for him to watch out. She declared, "From now on, I'm your personal bodyguard. I'll protect you from anyone, especially anyone with red hair." Wanan stared at her in confusion. "What nonsense are you talking about?" But Bashing just smiled and said, "You don't have a choice. I'm sticking with you from now on." Back in class, Jianu tossed his homework at her, expecting her to do it for him like always. But with her new, mature mindset, Bashing saw how foolish she had been. For the first time, she spoke up, telling him to do his own work. Jianu, surprised by her change in attitude, tossed the homework at her again, not bothering to question why she was different. Ting Ting, sitting in front of her, noticed and commented, saying it was the first time Bashing had ever refused Jianu's request. Angry, Bashing snapped, "If you like him so much, you can do his homework." Frustrated, she went to the vice principal's office and asked to be transferred to the top-ranked class. The vice principal told her that only the best students could join that class. When she asked how she could qualify, he explained that there was an upcoming science competition, and if she won, she would earn a place in the top class. Bashing soon learned that her main competition would be none other than Wanan. Determined to succeed, she tried everything to get Wanan to help her with her project, but he refused. Even when she attempted to bribe him to back out of the competition, Wanan stood his ground. Bashing knew she'd have to work hard to beat him, and maybe, along the way, find a way to save him too. When the day of the competition finally arrived, Bashing and Wanan both presented their speeches. But as Bashing began, the audience quickly realized something embarrassing. Her speech was identical to Wanan's. She had copied his work. Humiliated, Bashing chased after Wanan to apologize. but he coldly told her to leave him alone. As they walked, a boy approached Wanin, and a fight broke out. Bashing's heart pounded. She thought it was the same red-haired guy from the video she'd seen, only this boy hadn't dyed his hair yet. Convinced she had to save Wanin from this future bully, Bashing bought a red wig to help identify the mystery boy. After some digging, she found out his name was Mai. She confronted him, demanding to know why he was picking on Wanin. Mai dismissed her, saying it was none of her business, then started bullying her instead. But Bashing stood her ground, telling Mai that she wouldn't let him hurt Wanin. Amused, Mai taunted her, saying he would eventually get to Wanin no matter what. Bashing boldly challenged him, and Mai proposed a contest. Whoever could make elephant toothpaste better would win. If Bashing won, Mai promised to leave Wanin alone. Desperate to win, Bashing kept pestering Wanin to teach her how to make elephant toothpaste. Finally worn down, he agreed, and that evening they snuck into the school's science lab. Wanin showed her the steps, but when a security guard showed up, they panicked, spilling the foamy mixture everywhere. Despite the mess, Bashing was thrilled. She'd learned the formula. The next day, Bashing went to Mai, confident and ready. Mai's friend Gaoi was there to judge the competition. Meanwhile, Wanin, realizing he forgot to give Bashing a crucial ingredient, hurried to find her. But it was too late. Without the missing ingredient, Bashing's formula didn't work, and she lost. Frustrated, she demanded to know why Mai hated Wanin so much. With a sigh, Mai revealed the truth. Wanin was actually his friend, and he liked teasing him just to annoy him. The contest was simply a way to show Bashing that Wanin wasn't as perfect as she thought. Just then, Wanin arrived, ready to defend Bashing, but she reassured him she was fine. Mai, however, couldn't resist taunting Wanin again. This time, Gaoi scolded him, saying he'd never be better than Wanin, pointing out that Mai would likely end up jobless if he didn't change his ways. Furious, Mai snapped back, reminding Gaoi that being the principal's daughter didn't make her any better since she skipped classes and failed tests too. After things settled, Bashing asked Wanin to help her study again. Wanin finally agreed, but the next day Bashing, thinking Wanin had a crush on another classmate, tried to set him up with her. This backfired, making Wanin angry. He snapped that he wouldn't help her anymore, leaving Bashing confused. Little did she realize that Wanin's real feelings were for her, not anyone else. Later, back in class, Bashing saw that one of the windows was broken, and everyone accused her friend Chao Yong. Bashing defended him, demanding proof. When no one had any, she proposed a deal to switch classrooms so they wouldn't report it to the principal. She suggested this to her classmates, but Ting Ting objected, saying it wasn't her problem. Bashing fired back, saying they should all stick together as friends. Finally, one student agreed to the idea, and soon everyone else followed, leaving Ting Ting no choice but to go along. Meanwhile, Wanin went to Mai, suspecting he had broken the window. Mai laughed and admitted it. Wanin handed him some money, telling him to apologize to the principal and pay for the damage, but Mai refused, saying he didn't need help from someone younger than him. The next day, Ting Ting started bullying one of Bashing's classmates, but Bashing stepped in, fiercely defending the girl and even kicking Ting Ting out of the classroom. Jianu watched from a distance, impressed by Bashing's newfound strength. Later, Mai went to the principal's office to confess about the window, explaining that he couldn't pay for the repairs. The principal decided to forgive him, but made him promise to clean the entire school as punishment. When Wanin heard about it, he rushed to find Mai, and, for the first time, offered to help him with the cleaning. One day, Jianu surprised Bashing by asking for her help with studying. She firmly refused and walked away, but Jianu wouldn't take no for an answer and followed her around. Wanin saw them together and misunderstood, thinking Bashing was still chasing after Jianu. Determined to step in, Wanin boldly offered to help Bashing study instead. When Jianu found out, he insisted on joining their study sessions, refusing to leave them alone otherwise. The three of them began studying together, but Wanin quickly grew irritated as Jianu kept trying to get closer to Bashing. Frustrated, Wanin moved his seat right next to Jianu, telling him to study quietly. Jianu, annoyed, snapped back, bragging that while Wanin might be smart, he was better at riding bikes. This led to a challenge, and Wanin, who didn't know how to ride a bike, ended up falling. Bashing rushed to help him and decided to take him home herself. When they arrived, she was surprised to find Wanin's house empty. Wanin explained that his parents worked a lot and often traveled for days. Gathering his courage, he asked how she had met Jeonu. Bashing shared a memory from her childhood, explaining that she had once been saved from a fire, and she had always thought Jeonu was her rescuer. She admitted that, over time, she realized she and Jeonu weren't right for each other after all. Reassuring Wanin, she told him she no longer had feelings for Jeonu, and Wanin couldn't help but feel happy. In the days that followed, Wanin helped Bashing with her studies, and they grew closer. Her hard work paid off when she ranked 50th in her class, qualifying her for the advanced group. Jeonu, waiting to celebrate with her, offered her ice cream, but Bashing barely noticed him. At her new class, the assistant principal asked her to introduce herself and choose a seat. The only one left was at the back, but Gaoi, noticing Wanin's eagerness, offered Bashing her seat nearby as a friendly gesture. During class, the teacher announced that the basketball team needed a new player. Wanin, knowing Jeonu was already on the team, volunteered, hoping to impress Bashing. She was thrilled and wrote Wanin's name on a cheering board. However, when she returned the next day, she saw that his name had been torn off. Determined, Bashing went to the training room to find something else to write his name on. Just then, Ting Ting arrived, asking to talk, but Bashing refused, so Ting Ting locked her inside and went off to cheer for Jeonu. Wanin, noticing Bashing's absence, felt hurt, thinking she had forgotten him. But then, through the window, he saw her holding a sign with his name. He also saw her dangerously close to falling and rushed over to save her. At that moment, Bashing had a flashback of the boy who had saved her from the fire and began to suspect that Wanin, not Jeonu, was her real rescuer. When Jeonu showed up to check on her, she reassured him that she was fine and asked him to get back to the game. She then turned to Wanin, asking if he remembered her from before. He replied that they'd been classmates since first grade, though she never seemed to notice him. Her suspicion grew, and she asked to meet him after school, but rain poured down, making it difficult. Frustrated, she wrote Wanin a message saying they couldn't meet and asked Chao Yong to deliver it. Unfortunately, she slipped and fell in front of the teacher, landing them both in detention. Meanwhile, Bashing's brother, Da-hai, was getting scolded for selling expired products. Soon after, Mai showed up, demanding Da-hai pay a debt. Da-hai managed to escape, dressed in a ridiculous frog costume, only to be scolded by their father at home for not having a job. Determined, Da-hai tried to sell his frog suit in the rain. Wanin, noticing his distress, agreed to buy the costume to help him out. Wearing the suit to school, Wanin became an easy target for Mai and his friends, who mistook him for Da-hai and beat him up. Realizing their mistake, Mai rushed Wanin to the nurse. Bashing found Wanin there and scolded him for getting hurt. He brushed it off, saying he just bumped into a wall. Suspicious, Bashing asked about the frog suit, and Wanin explained that he bought it to help a poor boy support his family. Bashing quickly warned him not to buy anything from her brother, revealing that Da-hai was her sibling. Later, Wanin mentioned that Mai's father would be tutoring them that evening. At Mai's house, Wanin fell asleep from exhaustion, and as Bashing watched him, she noticed a burn mark on his arm, the same spot where the boy who saved her had been injured. Her suspicion was confirmed. Wanin, not Jeonu, had been her childhood hero. The next day, Bashing saw that Mai had dyed his hair red, realizing the scene she had once witnessed was about to unfold. Determined to protect Wanin, she started following him everywhere, waiting for the right moment to intervene. Deep in thought, she accidentally bumped into some chairs, nearly falling, but Wanin was there to catch her just in time. Grateful, Bashing thanked him, mentioning it was the third time he'd saved her. Curious, Wanin asked what she meant, and she told him she knew he was the one who had rescued her from the fire, not Jeonu. Relieved, Wanin admitted he'd wanted to tell her the truth, but hadn't wanted to spoil her memory. Bashing expressed her gratitude, saying she didn't know how she could ever repay him. Wanin simply replied, saying he was happy just being close friends with her. Just then, Mai appeared, proudly showing off his new red hair to his gang, ready to make an impression. One of Mai's friends pointed out that he had a rash on his face, likely from the expired dye he'd used to turn his hair red. Furious, Mai vowed to take revenge on Da-hai for selling him expired products. Meanwhile, Bashing confronted Mai, urging him to leave Wanin alone and avoid any fights. But Mai, still fuming over Da-hai's actions, lost his temper with her. Just then, Jeonu appeared and stepped in to protect Bashing. She thanked him for his help and Jianu expressed a desire to be friends again. However, Bashing politely declined, saying she liked things as they were, especially since he no longer pressured her to do his homework. Jianu apologized, insisting he genuinely wanted to be her friend without any strings attached. Bashing acknowledged that friendship might be good, but she warned him that he might regret it. She confessed that, in the past, she was so focused on chasing him that she hadn't thought about her true feelings. Jianu understood, realizing that Bashing had moved on. The next day, Bashing questioned Wanin about his friendship with Mai and why they were still close. Wanin reassured her that Mai's antics didn't bother him, but Bashing pressed on, revealing she knew Mai had attacked him when he wore the frog costume. Wanin denied it, but Bashing remained suspicious. Meanwhile, Mai confronted Dahai, declaring it was time to settle their issues. Trembling, Dahai admitted he owed Mai money but had none to pay him back. Mai snapped, revealing he was also there to confront Dahai for selling him expired dye that caused the rash. He threatened to ruin Dahai's business if he didn't make it right. Gathering his courage, Dahai reminded Mai that he had seen him attack Wanin in the frog costume and could easily report him to the police. Just then, Bashing arrived and overheard the conversation, confirming her worst fears. Mai might be the one responsible for Wanin's future tragedy. Determined to protect Wanin, Bashing decided to keep Mai away from him. Later, Mai visited Wanin's house to hang out and watch a movie. Noticing Wanin was deep in thought, he asked if Wanin liked someone. Wanin admitted he did, but was unsure about confessing. Trying to help, Mai suggested a camping trip with friends, thinking it might bring Wanin closer to the girl he liked. Excited by the idea, Wanin shared the plan with Bashing and their friends. But when Mai called to check on the camping arrangements, Bashing warned Wanin that Mai might be dangerous and asked him to distance himself. Wanin brushed off her concerns, saying that Mai was his closest friend and wouldn't hurt him. Annoyed, Bashing confronted Mai directly, demanding he stay away from Wanin. Mai scoffed, insisting that he was Wanin's true friend and wouldn't abandon him, but he warned Bashing to keep her distance unless she wanted trouble. Just then, another gang showed up, looking to fight with Mai's group. Taking advantage of the situation, Bashing discreetly called the police, and both gangs were arrested. Later, Bashing and Wanin headed to the campsite. Wanin tried to confess his feelings several times, but couldn't find the right moment. That evening, Wanin received a call from his father, who had returned to China. His father insisted he come home immediately, leaving Wanin feeling unsettled. Curious about Wanin's sudden departure, Bashing visited him the next day and met his father, who invited her to join them for breakfast. During the meal, Wanin's father shared stories of Wanin's childhood, revealing that his mother had always wanted a daughter and would style young Wanin's hair with girly accessories. Embarrassed, Wanin tried to change the topic, and Bashing shifted the conversation, asking why his mother hadn't returned from abroad. Wanin explained that his mother didn't seem very interested in him, and often forgot about important events, like his birthday. Bashing decided to make Wanin's birthday special, and asked Chao Yong to help her pick a gift. While shopping, they unexpectedly ran into Wanin's father with another woman. Curious, Bashing quietly asked Chao Yong why a man might betray his wife. Chao Yong didn't know, but Bashing's suspicions grew. Determined to find out what was going on, Bashing asked Chao Yong to keep watch while she distracted Wanin. She invited Wanin to her house under the pretense of studying and showed him an old photo album. Pointing to a picture of a young boy, she told him that this boy had been her closest friend as a child and always helped her through tough times. Wanin was shocked to recognize himself in the photo, his face going pale. Just then he received a message from his father, urging him to come home immediately. Concerned, Bashing decided to accompany Wanin. When they arrived, she was surprised to see the woman from earlier. It turned out to be Wanin's mother, who had returned to China as a surprise for his birthday. She had prepared an extravagant dinner and bought him a gift, making an effort to make his birthday special. Though Bashing felt happy for Wanin, she couldn't help feeling a bit out of place and stayed mostly quiet. Wanin's mother noticed her silence and gently asked if she was okay. Bashing shyly admitted she was just feeling a bit bashful. As the evening went on, she realized just how much Wanin's family dynamics had influenced him, and she silently vowed to always be there for him, as he had always been there for her. Wanin's mother handed him a form, expecting him to prepare for studies in America. But Wanin surprised her, saying he wanted to attend a university in China to study veterinary medicine. His mother quickly corrected him. insisting that he study human medicine in America as she had planned. Wanan was left speechless, feeling torn between his own dreams and his mother's expectations. The next day at school, Bashing asked him why he had changed his mind about attending the veterinary college in China, as they had once promised each other. Wanan looked at her, asking if she really loved veterinary medicine. Bashing, despite her love for animals, admitted she wasn't as passionate about it. She only wanted to go to the same university as him. Wanan explained his mother's pressure for him to become a doctor, not a veterinarian, and that she was forcing him to go to America. Struggling to meet his mother's expectations while wanting to stay close to Bashing, Wanan's grades began to drop. He, who once held the top position, found himself slipping as his mind wrestled with this dilemma. Concerned, Bashing decided to confront Wanan's mother, asking why she insisted on sending him away if it made him unhappy. Wanan's mother revealed that, since childhood, she had raised Wanan as if he were a girl, fulfilling her own dreams through him. Now she regretted forcing him down a path he didn't want. She handed Bashing a childhood photo of Wanan, asking her to keep it as a memory. Seeing the photo, Bashing suddenly realized that Wanan was indeed her childhood friend. Rushing home, she compared the photo with her own childhood album, confirming her suspicion. She remembered the promise they had made as kids, to become veterinarians together. Excited, Bashing hurried back to tell Wanan the truth, thrilled that he might stay and follow his dream. But when she asked where he was, Chao Yong told her Wanan had already left. Panicked, Bashing dashed to Wanan's house, frantically knocking on the door, fearing he had left without saying goodbye. Wanan opened the door, surprised, and told her to calm down. He explained he hadn't left, he had just fallen ill. Relieved, Bashing handed him some medicine before heading back to school. Later, she asked Chao Yong about his college plans. Chao Yong casually admitted he didn't care about exams or university, as he wanted to become a famous idol. Encouraging him, Bashing supported his dream. She then had a memory of an exam where seat number 1 had been empty and began to suspect that Chao Yong might have missed that exam. She shared her realization with Wanan, revealing that he was her childhood friend and expressing her renewed passion for veterinary medicine, a dream she had shared with him since they were young. Overjoyed by Bashing's words, Wanan decided he would confront his mother and pursue his own dreams instead of hers. To celebrate, he took Bashing to the amusement park, where they spent a joyful day together, filled with laughter and happiness. But as they headed home, they found Janu waiting for them. He questioned where Bashing had been so late at night. Coldly, she replied that it was none of his business and challenged him, asking if he planned to stalk her. Janu, feeling hurt, confessed that he liked her and wanted to be friends. Bashing firmly rejected him, saying she wouldn't date someone like him. Taken aback, Janu reminded her that many girls would love to be with him, but Bashing didn't waver. The next day, Bashing took Wanan to the beach, encouraging him to study hard and prove himself to his mother. She casually asked for his seat number, realizing it matched the one for a student who might miss the upcoming exam. Fearing Wanan might be forced to leave before the test, she became determined to ensure he stayed. Soon after, she received a call from Jeanu, who shared a recording of his coach praising him and predicting he'd become the president of the basketball club. Bashing asked why he was telling her this, and he replied confidently, saying she'd regret not choosing him. She retorted that she hoped to lose him soon and asked him to stop bothering her. With a sense of urgency, Bashing rushed to Wanan, ready to confess her feelings before it was too late. She begged him not to leave and to stay with her so they could pursue their dreams together. To her relief, Wanan admitted he loved her too. In a moment of determination, Bashing tore up the form for his trip to America, feeling a wave of relief. Afterward, Wanan helped Bashing with her studies, and she dedicated herself to preparing for the upcoming exam. As fate would have it, she realized this was the same test she had memorized answers for during her time travel. Using her memory of the questions, Bashing answered them all correctly, emerging as the top student in the school for this exam. Jealous, Tingting went to the assistant principal, accusing Bashing of cheating. Calmly, Bashing suggested checking the surveillance cameras to confirm her honesty. Just then, Wanan stepped in, assuring the assistant principal that he had been sitting next to Bashing and saw she only used a pen and paper. Convinced, the assistant principal dismissed Tingting's complaint, advising her to focus on her own studies. Grateful, Bashing thanked Wanan, who humbly replied that he was only doing his duty as a friend. Proud of her achievement, he encouraged her to keep up her hard work. As they walked back, Gaoi informed them that Chaoyong was in trouble. Chaoyong's dreams of becoming an idol crumbled when the entertainment company he trusted turned out to be a scam, taking all his money. Concerned, Bashing and her friends took Chaoyong to the amusement park to lift his spirits. They spent a joyful day together, but amidst the laughter, Bashing was jolted by a terrifying vision of Wanin falling from a tower. The chilling reminder of her mission, to save Wanin from his fate, brought her back to reality, filling her with anxiety and fear. Sensing her distress, Wanin comforted her, promising to always stay by her side and encouraging her to be brave. Moved, Bashing promised him that she would work hard to change their future, save him, and protect him forever. Wanin, though unsure of why she felt this way, was encouraged by her words. As they arrived at school the next day, Janu spotted them together and felt a pang of jealousy. Grabbing a microphone, he publicly declared his love for Bashing, announcing that he intended to enroll in medical school with her, and vowing that she would eventually come back to him, no matter how long it took. Bashing ignored his proclamation and joined Gaoi, who invited her to study at her house. While they were studying, Gaoi's father saw them and reminded her to focus on academics, insisting that she become a doctor. Gaoi firmly responded that she wanted to go to art school and showed him her application. Furious, her father tore up her papers, declaring that, as the school principal, he would make sure she became a doctor. Defiantly, Gaoi told her father that she would leave home if he continued to control her life. Heartbroken, she left the house, and Chaoyong eventually found her in tears. Comforting her, he encouraged her to follow her dreams, and, in that heartfelt moment, they both confessed their feelings for each other. The next day, Bashing and Wanin prepared for their final exam, which would determine their future. Bashing took Wanin to a lighthouse, asking him to promise that he would protect his life, no matter what, so they could achieve their dreams together. Suddenly, Mai, the gang leader, summoned Wanin for a mission. Knowing that this was the day Wanin was supposed to die, Bashing refused to leave his side, determined to protect him. They went to the amusement park and spent time on the Ferris wheel, where Wanin assured her that he wouldn't do anything reckless. The following morning, Bashing woke up to find Wanin missing, and her heart sank, fearing the worst. But Wanin soon returned, explaining he'd only gone out to get breakfast. Relieved that they had passed the dangerous day safely, Bashing felt hopeful. Meanwhile, Mai's gang kidnapped Dahai, demanding repayment of his debts. Dahai pleaded that he had no money, but promised to gather it somehow. They gave him a short deadline to pay up. At the same time, Gaoi called Bashing, inviting her to a college seminar at a restaurant. While there, Janu approached her once more, asking when she planned to fall in love with him. Bashing, frustrated, firmly replied that she was already in love with someone else and asked him to leave her alone. Undeterred, Janu boasted that he would go to any lengths for her, even jumping into the water to prove his love. At one point, Janu attempted to impress her by jumping into a pool, only to reveal awkwardly that he couldn't swim. Bashing had to help him out, scolding him for his antics and reiterating that she had feelings for Wanin. For the first time, Jinu seemed to understand that she had truly moved on. Meanwhile, Mai's gang ordered him to find Dahai's sister, planning to kidnap her as leverage for his debt. Following orders, Mai approached Bashing and Wanin. Anxious, Bashing feared Mai might harm her, but he surprised her by telling the gang she wasn't the person they were looking for. Later, Mai met with Bashing and Wanin at a restaurant, revealing that Dahai's debt had put both her and her brother in danger. He explained that Dahai had taken a loan to buy goods, which turned out to be expired, leaving him unable to repay the gang. Returning to the gang leader, Mai lied, telling them that Bashing's parents had sent her abroad to study because she was a failure. The gang believed his story, sparing Bashing for now. Mai then contacted Wanin to inform him that the plan had worked, keeping Bashing safe. In the days that followed, Bashing received her exam results, only to realize her grades weren't high enough to get into the veterinary college. Wanin reassured her, reminding her that the official placement results hadn't been released yet, and that he would never leave her side, regardless of the outcome. Feeling comforted, Bashing encountered her brother Dahai on her way back and scolded him for running away and putting their family in danger. Dahai explained that he was now working hard to pay off his debts and protect his family. Later, Bashing received yet another call from Jeanu, who was waiting for her at the water park, attempting to win her affection with an awkward display among the fish. Reminding him that she loved someone else, Bashing told Jeanu she was tired of his antics and decided to leave. Heartbroken, Jeanu retreated to the basketball court, where he started drinking alone. There, he ran into the gang, who noticed his disheveled state and asked why he was there. In his drunken sadness, Jeanu confessed that he had been dumped by the girl he loved. Curious, one of the gang members pressed him to reveal who she was. Jeanu, in a drunken moment, revealed to the gang that his lost love was Bashing and confirmed that she was Dahai's sister. With this new information, the gang set off to find Bashing and Wanin. However, Mai once again came to their rescue, signaling Wanin to escape and quickly dropping Bashing off at her house. Concerned, Wanin called Mai to find out what was going on. Mai warned him that the gang had discovered Bashing was still in town and were actively searching for her, urging Wanin to protect her. On his way, Wanin ran into Dahai and scolded him, demanding he work harder to gather money to protect their family. Tearfully, Dahai admitted he had managed to save some money, but the gang had added an extra 500,000 to his debt, and he had no idea where to get it. Broken, he said he was ready to turn himself into the police and asked Wanin to look after Bashing. Meanwhile, Bashing's parents celebrated her acceptance into veterinary college. In the midst of this, Wanin began planning a proposal for Bashing and sought advice from Mai and Gaui. Mai suggested creating a romantic setting with flowers, and Wanin asked him to help set up the location. But when Wanin arrived, Mai was missing. Calling him, Wanin discovered that Mai was in the gang's custody, being punished for lying about Bashing's whereabouts. Gaui, who was with Bashing, took her to the garden, unaware of what was happening. She soon revealed Wanin's intention to propose. Concerned, Bashing tried reaching Wanin, who told her he was searching for Mai, who had been kidnapped by the gang. The two girls hurried to find him, but Wanin admitted he still hadn't located Mai. To calm their nerves, they took a stroll along the beach, and Bashing was relieved to see the lighthouse. The place where Wanin was supposed to fall had been demolished. It felt like a sign that her efforts to change the future had worked. Hoping to ease the tension, Bashing took Wanin to the mall, where they enjoyed some time together. Suddenly, Mai appeared, warning them that the gang was close by and that they were in serious danger. He assured them he would try to hold off the gang while they escaped. Wanin and Bashing fled to the rooftop, where he hid her in a small box and told her not to come out, no matter what happened. When the gang reached the roof, they demanded to know where Bashing was, but Wanin cleverly denied having any girl with him. In the midst of the chaos, one of the gang members pushed Wanin, causing him to fall from the roof. Bashing, horrified, felt a sense of hopelessness as her worst fear unfolded before her. She decided to return to the future once again, seeking out her brother Dahai and confronting him about his actions. Dahai, confused, apologized and explained that he had changed his ways, now working an honest job and earning money. Still, Bashing tried desperately to find a way back to the past, but nothing seemed to work. She fell into a deep depression, and her mother, believing it was due to her broken engagement with Jeanu, tried to comfort her. Bashing insisted that she no longer cared about Jeanu. Determined to uncover answers, Bashing visited the lighthouse only to be turned away by the manager. Refusing to give up, she went to the old library where she used to meet Wanin and searched for books on time travel. She met an elderly man there, asking if he remembered Wanin. The man recalled Wanin's visits to the library but hadn't seen him in years. He gave Bashing an address, suggesting she try looking there. When she arrived at the address, she found that Wanin's old home had been sold long ago. Refusing to give up, Bashing searched online for people with the same name and eventually reached out to a match. But when they met, it was just a young boy who innocently asked her not to call again, calling her ma'am. Heartbroken, Bashing reached out to Chao Yong. Surprised by her sudden interest, he listened as she confided in him, explaining her journey to the past and the memories they had shared there. Chao Yong, who had since achieved fame, believed her story and reassured her that he would be there for her. Clinging to her last bit of hope, Bashing decided to sneak into the lighthouse at night. There, she found her old broken phone, and it dawned on her that she might never be able to return to the past again. Back at home, she reflected on the memories she had made with her friends, feeling resigned. She wished for one last chance to go back, not to fall in love with Wanin, but simply to save him. Finally accepting her reality, Bashing approached her former boss and asked for her old job back. He offered her a position as a delivery worker at the zoo, which she accepted. One day, while delivering a parrot, it escaped from her hands. Her boss warned that he wouldn't forgive her unless she retrieved the parrot, as it belonged to an important client. Bashing returned to the area, where she saw a young man holding the parrot, but he walked away before she could reach him. Determined to find him, Bashing tracked him down to a car repair shop. Her boss informed her they had a photo of the young man from surveillance cameras, and when Bashing saw the image, she was shocked. It was Mai. She rushed to his location, only to find him beaten and unconscious. Panicking, she called an ambulance, but as they arrived at the hospital, Bashing received more devastating news. Her mother was also ill and had been hospitalized. After ensuring her mother was stable in the hospital, Bashing went to pick up her repaired phone. The repairman informed her that it was finally fixed. Testing the phone, Bashing realized that it could now send her back in time again. Filled with resolve, she vowed to focus solely on saving Wanan, avoiding any distractions. She traveled back to the first day of the school year and immediately ran to find Wanan. Spotting him, she wrapped him in a warm hug, relieved and overjoyed to see him safe. Confused, Wanan asked how she knew him, and Bashing simply replied that she had come to save him. Yet, just as she finished speaking, she found herself back in the present, only minutes after her journey to the past. Realizing something was wrong with her phone, Bashing tried multiple times to return to the past, but each time she was pulled back almost instantly. Frustrated, she sought out Mai, hoping he might know something about Wanan's whereabouts. But when she confronted him, Mai pretended not to recognize her. When she showed him an old picture of the two of them with Wanan, Mai's demeanor shifted, and fear flashed across his face. Quickly pulling her away, Mai whispered that they needed to leave immediately, as gang members were closing in on them. Fortunately, Dahai spotted the danger and alerted the police, who intervened and apprehended the gang. Afterward, Mai called Bashing and finally agreed to speak with her. He revealed that Wanan had loved her deeply, but had always felt overshadowed by her affection for Janu. Mai recounted how Wanan had once written her a love letter, only for her to dismiss it without even reading it. Feeling a surge of regret, Bashing rushed home, searching through her old belongings until she found the letter. As she read Wanan's heartfelt words, she realized he had loved her since childhood. He described memories of playing with animals together and their shared promise to study veterinary medicine. When his mother had taken him away unexpectedly, he had returned years later in middle school, only to see her devoted to Jianu, believing he was her hero. Through tear-filled eyes, Bashing also found Wanan's journals, filled with reflections, drawings, and cherished memories of her. Overcome with sadness, she headed to the sea, wishing for just one more chance to return to the past, not to rekindle romance, but simply to save him. Concentrating with all her might, she gripped her phone, and to her relief, she was transported back. This time, she reintroduced herself to Wanan, gently expressing her feelings and promising to be there for him. She also took proactive steps to prevent Dahai from falling into debt, warning people not to buy spoiled products from him. She even convinced Dahai to avoid the gang, hoping these small actions might alter the future. She also warned Wanan to avoid the lighthouse, knowing it would play a role in his fate. However, as she grew closer to him, she found herself falling in love once again. Realizing she was losing focus, Bashing decided to distance herself from Wanan to prevent any emotional distractions from her mission. But Wanan noticed her change and questioned her, feeling hurt and confused. Struggling to keep her distance, she tried to maintain her resolve, even as her heart ached. Meanwhile, she kept a watchful eye on her brother, cautioning him repeatedly about staying away from the gang. Despite her efforts, she later saw Dahai borrowing money from them again. She tried to confront him, but he brushed her off, insisting he knew what he was doing. One night, Wanan came to her rescue when gang members tried to intimidate her, shielding her from harm. She took him to the hospital, warning him to never protect her again for his own safety. Later, she even distanced herself from school, deciding to work at her brother's store to keep an eye on him. When Wanan tried to ask her out, she forced herself to reject him, insisting she didn't have feelings for him to protect him from the dangers in her life. Eventually, Dahai's debt spiraled, and the gang cornered him, demanding payment. Mai and Wanan both intervened, helping him return the goods and settle the debt. Despite Bashing's heartbreak, she told Wanan that she couldn't love him, trying to push him away for good. Then, Wanan received news that his mother was sending him to America for school. Realizing she had completed her mission, Bashing accepted her reality and returned to the present. She resumed her life, working her old job and visiting friends. One day she spotted Tingting and Janu together, happy for them, as she realized Tingting had always loved Janu. Bashing also learned that Gaui had become a renowned artist with her own exhibition. Inspired, Bashing visited her old school and found out that they were planning an alumni ceremony. Shortly after, she received a job offer from an animal organization she had always dreamed of working for, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment. One rainy day, she received a mysterious message from an unknown number, inviting her to the park. Curious, she went, and as she stood under the pouring rain, a figure approached, shielding her with an umbrella. Looking up, she recognized the familiar face. It was Wanan, her beloved, standing by her side once again. As the rain fell softly around them, Bashing realized that no matter how many timelines they crossed or obstacles they faced, some bonds were destined to find their way back, proving that true love, once found, could never truly be lost.